Okay, everybody. So I've done a few more steps on the project here. As you can see, I've got the whole bottom half of this, lacking nothing but the top. So unfortunately, after I pulled this piece out of the car, um, just as I feared, and just like last time, there was a lot of tape on the top edges here. So I had to um, go all the way around and sand about an inch or so along that top edge, so that when I put the top on and I overlap a little of the mat, that it'll bond well. Otherwise, it can be a nightmare. If you try to just bond it over the tape, you're gonna have air leaks. It's worth it to spend the time to get it sanded down pretty well, at least get the tape off of it. So otherwise, you're gonna be doing like I did on the last one, where I thought I had sanded it good, but I still wound up, this one over here, I still wound up having to go around a lot of the seam and fiberglass a lot of that, fix a lot of holes. I had at least 4 holes in the thing, so it's pretty pathetic. Even the bottom had some issues, and that was my first attempt. That's kind of expected. It didn't stand up to the water test when I was filling it with water, see if it was watertight, and at the same time determining its cubic footage. I wound up finding 2 leaks in the bottom of it. So this one I've gone all the way around, sanded, and that is the worst thing to have to do with fiberglass, because it's all these little tiny bits get all over you, and you can feel them even the next morning, even after you take a shower. Some of these little bits are getting your skin. They eventually will work their way out. Your body will reject them, but it's not pleasant. So make sure you wear a respirator for that step. The other thing, obviously, as you can see, this wasn't done in the car, this curb part. Flat part here wasn't, and this little part. So I wound up using, just like on the last one, this was the piece that sits in the rear left corner where the jack goes. And as you can see, it's got a nice curved surface. It sits in here like this. It's got a nice curved surface. So I was able to take some cardboard and fill out the bottom. Camera work needs some help here. Fill out the bottom pieces there, that gap there, that gap, and tape it up. And I just used foil over the whole surface this time, taping it up. And as you can see, it actually leaves some sticky residue. And some of that actually, I think, is a little bit of melting caused by the heat of this resin, which, as I was talking about last time, the stuff cures. It's an exothermic reaction, generates heat. This is a piece of styrofoam. As you can see, it got a little bit of melting going on there. See, that's the smooth edge. Melted a little bit from the heat. That was part of the original form in the car. I'll get a better example here. See how that melted all that? That's the good end. That's the melted end, what the tape was in contact with. So the next thing I did after I pulled the car and sanded, well, I got ahead of myself here. Actually, the first thing I did was I added 2 more layers of glass in here, and I made this part separate. It was just made the arc there, and so it's 4 layers there total, about a little over an 1/8 inch. And the main thing is 4 layers total. And then I made this little piece just use a piece of cardboard, put up against that, tape all along the piece of cardboard, so it came out nice inside there. This little piece here, I just used tape to fill this gap, and then I put the mat right up against the tape. And then I had to, see the edge is not completely flat, so I took a saw and I kind of tried to make it match the contour. Tested it in the car to make sure that the spare tire was going to be able to clear it. So it roughly goes along that line. That's actually with the tire, that's flush with the tire, that line. So I went out about 3/4 inch, give a little clearance, same as I did with this other side. So, and yeah, this is a big trunk actually. You take all the junk out of it. At least now I'm gonna have something useful, not just a literally this other piece on the right side. Literally it held the spot right there. All this held was a single eye bolt thing. This for towing, I guess. It's pretty stupid. Fix this stuff so it doesn't fall down. So the next thing was I had to saw the pieces. So I sawed this to about 6.5 all the way around, 6.5 high. So I'm going to set the sub about 1/2 inch below it. This is my mounting ring. Made that out of regular birch plywood actually, because I figure I know it's stronger than MDF. Everybody talks MDF, but fact is plywood is actually stronger than MDF. MDF is used for, I mean, it's good for sound enclosures because it's dense, but this is not only lighter but stronger. This is birch. It's a, I think it's not a softwood like a pine. It's more of a hardwood. It's not as hard as oak, I don't think. So I guess somewhere in the middle should be great for this purpose, though. So the sub is going to sit in here, so it'll be flush. So 6.5 should be right here, even with that top edge. So that's part of the install. I want it to be everything flush, not sticking up, not obstructing usage of the trunk in any way. It's the whole point of a stealth install. Won't even be able to see it in there. So the next thing I did was I joined this arc thing by going along the seams, and I made this part at the same time and this part over here, and I went all the way around with my I have a cutoff wheel down there. Went all the way around with that guy and made the whole thing roughly 6.5 inch. I mean, it doesn't have to be precise. You're gonna stretch some fabric over this, and I'll show you that step. This here, it's wet right now. After I did the water, I tested it with water, filled it up using a measuring cup. Determined that it took about 70 cups, which is about 0.62 cubic feet. So it's going to be plenty for this little 8. We recommend a range of like 0.3 to 0.5, but I've seen where they want, you know, in many ways, the bigger the better. Should allow me to have a lot of low end extension, but somehow or other, I got this at 0.62, and the other one is almost exactly right at like 0.62. It's a goofy kind of a shape, but this one is a little wider, just because the car is not 100% symmetrical in the hatch there. So somehow I nailed it on that. So I should be able to run these 2 subwoofers at the same power without having to worry about bottoming one out. You know, like you would if you had 2 different size boxes. The one in the bigger box is going to bottom first. Less damping, you know. So what I did, why this is wet now, I try to get smart this time and mix in some wax, which is this stuff. So I mixed in, you know, what the directions told me to mix in, and it was 40 drops for a quarter ounce, not quarter cup, and mix that in. So hopefully when that dries, it'll be the wax layer will be the top surface here, and the wax is supposed to come to the surface, and this whole thing will be fully cured. I don't have to worry about a residual fiberglass smell like I have had with this thing over here. I had to go in there. Somehow I was able to get my hand all the way over to that edge. I don't know how I did it. I fit my whole forearm in there. It was not fun, but I applied some of my PVA mold release, put that on a rag, put that all on the inside there. So I'm gonna let that dry at least for a few hours here, if not overnight, and I can wash that out. That's water soluble, that stuff. So I'm just gonna wash the whole thing out, squirt water in there. Hopefully that would kill off any of the remaining fiberglass smell, because I think it's been awful. The whole car, I mean, it's terrible. With the stuff on the outside, I'll be able to just, you know, do whatever. I can use that. I can use acetone. I can just paint it, or whatever I want to do. That'll be easy because it's accessible. Same way with this one. This one seems like it cured a little better, at least faster. I mean, doesn't have much of a smell at all. So now the next step is to get this ring. I'm going to use a few dowels, wooden dowels here, just to get it roughly situated, give it a little bit of support. And I'm going to stretch some of this super thin fabric. My mom gave me some of this. You can see through it. It's so thin. I don't know what it is, but beautiful thing about it is, let's see if I have a little bit. I don't know what I did with the little piece I had, but it takes up a very minimal amount of resin, which is what you want, but it gives you enough stiffness, structural support, that it'll support the mat when you start laying it on there and brushing it. So, you know, I didn't have any problems with that last time. It was great. Allowed me to save some resin, because if you use fleece, the fleece a lot of people say to use, you wind up, you know, using, it just soaks up a ton of resin. That's a waste of money. This resin here, it's like 35 a gallon, which isn't that expensive, but the other thing is it's unnecessary. It makes your project unnecessarily heavy. I mean, look how light this is. I can easily, you know, I could lift it with one finger if I could balance it. It's I weighed the last one I made with the ring in there, and it was 8 pounds. With the speaker, we're looking at roughly 16 or so pounds. So for the two, I should have 32 pounds with speaker. The amp is 5 pounds, so I'm looking at about 37 pounds for the entire project, which is great. The bass tube I took out of here, the 10-inch bass tube, was 33 pounds. So I've added just 4 pounds from a single 10 to dual 8s and stealth setup, and it's gonna be a lot better, I think. So we're going to wait a little longer for this to dry so I can put the dowels in there. And I'm going to use hot glue to glue it to this, maybe to the base of this, and then stretch my fabric over, and I'm going to start putting the resin on. And I'm going to wait a few hours. That's going to dry. Then I'm going to start laying the mat. And we're done. At least until, you know, we could add some wax to the very final layer on this one if we want. And that's about it. I'll see you later. Okay, here's the setup with the dowels, like I was talking about some of these at Lowe's. Just got it hot glued to the underside. And I got 5 of them, I guess. 4 or 5 should be sufficient. Just to hold it steady. And I actually put the level across it. This away, every which way, and it's actually really close to level in all directions, which is good. The other thing is, it's just a slight bit higher than our box. So that should allow for, you know, we can keep some tension on the cloth. Okay, this is what I've come up with for the part where we're going to stretch our fabric over and begin the what I call the lid of this. So as you can see, I got multiple pieces here. I did that to try to avoid as much as possible any deep wrinkles. If you go all the way around this, I've resorted to a combination of tape and some super glue in certain key areas, like in here where I had to hold that into the crack there. But the idea is, like I said, avoiding wrinkles as much as possible. We want to at least be able to cover this first inch here all the way around, have that be in contact with the walls, and this should be somewhat taut, which it is. So we're going to just lightly apply the resin to this, and I haven't really just determined the best way to handle corners. What I've been doing is cutting at a 45-degree angle and putting one piece under the other, folding it under it. So hopefully this time I'm not going to have nearly as many issues as I had last time. Let's keep our fingers crossed, because last time was a kind of a nightmare. But I've taken a pretty good amount of time sanding and just laying this fabric on to where I think we're going to be okay. So let's give it a go. Let this cure overnight, and so here's what we have now. Our thin little fabric is now sort of like a skin over our enclosure. So that's going to allow us to easily lay some mat on here. That'll support all the weight we need. We're just going to start putting layers of mat on. Got a nice clean edge around most of it. Looks like all of it. So a little bubble there. I'm gonna cut that out with the box knife so that we can get a nice clean edge. Everything else to me looks pretty good. So I'm gonna start laying some mat now. Probably do about at least 3 layers up top, 4 in this area, 4 here, just because they have a tendency to flex a little bit. I like to go a little thick around the ring, make sure there's nice amount of support, but 4 should be plenty. Fiberglass that I put on here is hardened now. I went ahead and did 4 layers just for good measure this time. So I figure if anything, the top should have more layers than the sides and bottom, just because that's the thing supporting the weight, the subwoofer. So I've cleaned up a little bit the seams. I'm gonna go around further and grind off close as I can to where the seam is, make it look nicer, fit easier in the car. Also need to go around here. I'm gonna take a Dremel, get as close as I can to that inside edge of that, and the very last thing is I'm gonna go up under here. I've cut up some mat, and I'm gonna make a little bit of a slurry, try to put it on this inside edge here, just to get a little bit more support if possible, and then that'll be it.